Hello, everybody. I'm Stephanie Wells with Anderson County Tourism, and today I'm here with some of our leadership from Rocky Top. I'm here with Michael Foster, who is our city manager, and Tim Isabel, who is our commissioner of that district. And today we're going to talk about some of the great things that's going on in Rocky Top. So just kind of start off, Michael, and tell us a little bit about yourself and how long you've been with Rocky Top.
So I'm Michael Foster, as you said. I'm the city manager. I've been with the city since 2015. So I started as a city recorder for a year, and then we changed our form of government to a city manager form of government. So when we did that, the city moved me into the city manager role. So I've been there, city manager for a little over 6 years. It was 6 years in March, and so yeah, it's been gone by faster than I expected.
So tell us some of the things that you deal with on a day-to-day basis.
So as city manager, I run the day-to-day operations of the city. So from everything from employees to operational costs to dealing with the public that comes in. So with the city, we have a water and sewer department, so that's a big portion of my job. And then we have the general fund side of things, which is our recreation, our police department, fire department, sanitation, which is our garbage pickup, and then in streets and things that go along with street repair and storm drains, that kind of thing. So my role, we have kind of two departments that I deal with, the two forms of government. You got the what we call business side of things, which would be your water and sewer, and then you got your general fund where you're dealing with those things that you're providing services with. We have roughly a little under, I think, about 25 employees. We got a full-time fire and police department, and then, like I said, with the recreation, and then water and sewer.
Okay. And Tim, you've been commissioner in that district for how long?
Going in my fourth term, been so blessed to be able to represent the people of District 4, and that encompasses the city of Rocky Top.
Okay. And some of the things, I know a lot has happened over the last few years. So just a few things that you're really proud of that you've seen happen in Rocky Top over the last few years.
Well, not only could I talk about, Rocky Top, it was Lake City when I first came in, the early 80s. And that was before ACWA and Powell Clinch was as big. And I've seen so many things grow. We had just one place to eat uptown. So I've seen a growth over the last 40 years. Next October, I'll be in business 40 years in that area. But there's been so many things happen in the last 12 years. One of the big things is with the ATV program that actually Stephanie, as tourism director, came up with the idea. And we sat down with Michael Lovely and Shane Val, and we talked about this, and we looked and did some research. There's only one other county, and I think it was in West Virginia, and it was a coal mining community, and they switched over to that, and it really regenerated. It took a few years for it to work, but you can see now the progress just with the ATV program. And the Coal Miners Museum, that's been something that we worked on early. We've had visitors from all 50 states come to the city of Rocky Top just to go to the museum in 8 foreign countries. That was their destination. We've worked on in so many of the things that we've done in trying to better the city and bring more people in. The campground. I wish we had some pictures of the campground we got now, because we had a Brownsfield grant years ago that I think Rex Lynch had got, and this thing had over 5,000 tires on it, and had a guy that come to me, this group, and said, "Hey, we're looking about putting a campground over in another part of the county. Can you recommend, what can we do?" And I said, "Well, what you can do, you can go up to the city, because there's already one there. It's got a lot of the utilities already there." And they came in and they cleaned that property up, and it's doing really well. If anybody gets to visit that, and we've had so many other investors, the bed and breakfast things, the what do you call them?
Short-term rentals.
Short-term
Yeah,
rentals.
all the short-term rentals. There's so much interest there. And then working with Michael, I can see all the things that, the grants and things that the city's got. I think we've got more grants for the city. And I'm talking about working with the city even before I was elected,
Right.
back in the 80s, early 80s. But all the things they've got now, and the way that these things are going to fall, you have to do one thing before you can see it.
Right.
And I know that people, they'll see, they can't really see it because they don't know what's involved in the grant and the time. And that's part about when you become an elected official. You don't realize how long it takes to get something done.
Right. So Michael, tell us about a couple of the grants that are coming up and how they're really going to kind of change the face of Rocky Top.
Yeah, and I'm going to speak on one thing that he said about the ATVs, and I know when I got there in 2015, that was something that came up, and when most people don't know that we changed that in like December or January of like 2016. I guess it went into effect in July with the new laws, but it wasn't one of those things that we saw overnight. Well, now we allow ATVs, but they just didn't start showing up the next day. But what you did see was, well, we had some start coming in on the weekends, and then you'd see some maybe not the next weekend, but the weekend after that. Then it was, you saw them come during the week, and you see them at the restaurant. Well, now that we've got the campgrounds, the short-term rentals, things that have really exploded in the last 2 years, we're seeing them all the time, not just on the weekends. It's especially COVID. When COVID happened, everybody went out and bought these nice outdoor toys because you couldn't go to concerts anymore, couldn't go to football games. And so that's been real beneficial to the city. And what I love about it more than anything is that we're seeing blighted properties be redeveloped into short-term rentals. The campground that took a piece of property that really was a Brownsfield, and it got redeveloped. So that's really cool from my side of things, because it was 5 years ago when we got that law changed, and really worked hard with our legislators to make that happen. So much that we got to change it. TDOT didn't know what to do because other cities had never done this in Tennessee. And so and that was a great partnership with the county, with tourism, with the city, and how we all work together with the chambers to really make a difference. You asked about the grants, and sorry I digressed there, but wanted to touch a point. But yeah, the city, we've done a lot of grants since I've been there, because I know we're a small community, small budget. So if there's improvements that we can make with the city, I want to do that through a grant. So since I've been there, we've applied for over $6 million and received over $6 million worth of funding, grant funding for the city. So that includes, we've gotten a fire truck out of that. So a brand new fire truck costs over $300,000. We don't have $300,000 just laying down for a fire truck. So we were able to apply and get a grant that got us a fire truck that cost the city $30,000. I'll take that trade any day of the week. And that's not just the truck, it's the air packs, it's the hoses. It's a fully functional fire truck that now lets us replace the 1994 fire truck. And what was great about that, we were able to pass that on to our volunteer fire department. So we were a good neighbor to, as Tennessee, his district, Medford Fire Department, got our 1994 fire truck that they can use to help serve people outside of our city. So we love working together on things. That's one example. We've gotten a lot of infrastructure money, and that's what people, most of that's all underground. It's for water, sewer. We've put in new water meters that were replaced about 6 years ago. We went to a digitally automated read. We drive through town, it automatically reads them. Got rid of a lot of the analog style meters that didn't read accurately. We are getting ready to break ground on about $4.1 million sewer infrastructure project. Probably in February, we hope to go to construction and bid on that. But of that 4.1, we've gotten over $2 million in grants to offset that. So that's saving our ratepayers a lot of money. Otherwise, we have to go out and get a bond to cover that cost to do those repairs, because even if we don't, TDEC's going to require us. We have requirements that we have to meet in those state agencies, the EPA. So no matter what, we were going to have to do those repairs. So for us to be able to pay with it with a grant goes a long way in saving our ratepayers money. But man, one that I know we hear a lot about is the sidewalk project that we're doing downtown. That's a TDOT grant. It's over $1 million, right at about a little under $1 million. Sorry. But we were announced in December of 2020. We've had a contract since then. This is a very slow process. It took a year and a half to do the environmental part of that, with TDOT approving the environmental, doing the environmental. We're now in the early design stages, preliminary design. So we've sent that to TDOT. We've gotten good response back from TDOT on the preliminary designs quicker than we did the environmental. So that's actually moving forward. We hope to break ground sometime in 2023 with that, but by latest it would be early 2024 that we'll actually go to construction. Just depends on right-of-way acquisition. And I'll speak for another city. Clinton has a TAP grant. They're on their phase 3, and they've yet to break ground on their phase 1. So it's not just us that has to deal with the hurry up and wait. And so these grants get announced, but you don't see them, any kind of work being done, because so much of the preliminary work on the design, on the environmental, there's no construction. Construction's the last piece. As many of you know that drive through Anderson County, if you're coming to the courthouse, you go across what used to be the Green Bridge. That's been a 4-year project that started in 2018. still not done. And that was to build a whole new bridge. So it does take time. And as Tim said, we don't always see things that are happening. Some things are underground. Some things are just a study to get to the construction part.
Well, and there's, the relationships between city and the county and the state and the federal government. They're so important for some of these projects. So talk a little bit about kind of where the county plays into what goes on at Rocky Top.
Well, of course, the county is always willing to work with any municipalities because it's success to the municipalities is success to the county. So, when they have projects like that, we wrote letters of support for all these grants. I think every one that he's done, we've had letter of support from the mayor, from both county commissioners, from our state representative, all the way. And every time an opportunity comes up, the county's right there with the city. And any meeting that we need to attend or go to Nashville with, we've always been able to do that. There's so, like he was talking about, you got to put things in order. It's like the water lines. Okay, you don't want to go in and pave right now and then tear the paving up to do the water line. So you want to do the water line first, what's underneath, what he was talking about. And the other thing is, when you do the sidewalks, right now the pavement is even. So if you go in and you take all the asphalt up and put the asphalt back down where it is originally, well, all your side streets are built up. So then that floods Main Street. So all that would have to be taken down. I mean, there's a whole lot to it, and people really don't, realize that, everything that goes into it. But, in the next few years, it's really going to look good.
Well, and he brought up a good point about the roads, and, TDOT's coming through and paving through town. But they know we have this sidewalk project, and so they've delayed their paving knowing that we're doing this repair, because what we don't want is go put all this money into sidewalks and curb and gutter, and they come and pave over, messes up the drainage. So, I mean, it's a coordination with not just the county agencies and county government, it's with the state agencies and state government and your state legislators. And those relationships are so important to have, and building those relationships. I can't thank our legislators enough for the support they've given me, given our city council, given our county commission, and when we do apply for a grant. They have never not called, made a phone call, not written a letter. They have always been really engaged with our city, and that's about building those relationships and knowing, hey, who your legislators are, going to Nashville for trips, going to meetings with TDOT. And so I sit on the RPO, which is the Rural Planning organization for TDOT. So I think I'm the county, Anderson County's municipal representative on that. I think that's very important because I know what TDOT's doing. They know, hey, well, if you're doing this, how do we coordinate to do this project? And we want to do this. And so one of the things we're just getting ready to apply for, actually getting ready to turn the application in today or tomorrow, is a TAP grant, which is Transportation Alternatives Program. And it's an 80-20 match, but it's sidewalks, pedestrian lighting, resurfacing. And so the area we're looking and applying for is from 2nd Street over to 4th Street and down Church Street. So, and what for us is that connects our school. Right. So, that's a good partnership with our schools. That's right where our splash pad is. It's right where the post office is, Main Street Baptist Church. So all these places where people tend to walk and roads that are heavily traveled, and we've got sewer repair. So while we're doing those sewer repair, storm drain, let's go ahead and do the sidewalks. Let's go ahead and apply. So things that we need to do, let's go ahead and apply for those grants and hopefully offset the cost for our taxpayers.
Right. So we've talked a lot about grants, but talk about kind of the health of the city's finances and where some of the other funding comes into play.
Yeah, so we feel like, as the city, we try to be very tight with our budget. It is a small budget. One of the problems that, when we first got there was our pay for our employees. It's hard to keep employees because our pay was so low. And so we worked to really try to get our pay up for our employees. And when we changed form of governments to the city manager, how, looking at positions, okay, do we need this position anymore? Or if somebody retired or quit or moved to another job, well, how do we rearrange some things? Can we save some money there? But we do feel like we're finally in a really good financial position. That's one of the reasons we've been able to apply for some more grants.
You have to match those grants.
You have to match those grants. Right. And there was a lot of times I don't apply for a lot of 50-50 grants because it doesn't make a lot of sense. But if it's something that we feel like, hey, this has to be done, perfect example, ARC is a 50-50 grant. We would never apply for that before, but since we were already doing the sewer work and we had some money coming in, we could use that match for that. So it was a no-brainer because it was an extra free $500,000. But we feel like we're in a good spot we've been saving some money, trying to build our fund balance up, so when we know we go to resurface that we can pay for that when we go to pave theirs, because paving changes all the time. As gas goes up, paving goes
exactly.
up. And I have asked for prices on to pave. What does it look like if we repaved every city street, not the highways that come through or 441? And a couple of years ago it was over $1 million. I mean, right? So you say, okay,
it's
well,
probably double by now.
right, yeah.
Right.
But hopefully, as prices settle in and you go back to the cost of when gas goes down, those prices go down. So it's a lot about timing of how do we pay with that for grants. But what I don't want to do is pave a road and then go, well, we're going to rip it up, put some sewer in there, because that's not being financially smart, not taking care of our taxpayers' money like we're supposed to.
Right.
The cost of paving now is $110,000 a mile. Several years ago it was $65,000.
Yeah.
So that's
and 20 years ago it was
yeah.
$10,000, right?
And then even on the grants, that he was talking about, I can remember sitting in the city meetings and they're talking about how they were going to buy a police car or how they was going to buy uniforms, because that was going to have to come out of city money,
right?
The tax money. With this one grant they got $250,000 for equipment. They got 3 new police cars. I don't think that they've ever been able to do that, and then that don't come out of the taxpayer's pocket. So that's really good.
And what's crazy to me on the police cars is now we're been able to do take-home cars. And that doesn't sound like a big deal until you're trying to recruit police officers, and every department around you gives a take-home car.
Right.
The county gives take-home car. Every county department around you. So, and when our pay's not as good as other counties, what's their average, reason for leaving there? Well, now we can be competitive because, hey, we do have take-home cars. We do provide 100% benefits to our employee. So now, okay, well, we might be $1 less an hour compared to somebody else, but with the other benefits, you're at least on equal ground again.
Well, I know we went through this with the county too, and just the response time and that it helps out with when the officer can get onto the scene. Because with a small department, you're going to need that backup, so that also comes into play too. Tim, as we wrap up, what would you like our viewers to know about Rocky Top and what's going on?
Well, if they can see the vision, that's always been the motto. Is the vision for the city, and with all the grants, the sidewalks improve it, the multi-use paths, pedestrian lighting, the streetscape buffers. If you can imagine how that's going to look, one of the grants that we actually had a meeting 2 weeks ago, and the city of Rocky Top has got money to go in to help blighted areas through they do these studies, okay. And then if there's, in other words, cleanup, because we got some areas that need to be cleaned up. So they'll come in and you can get a grant to do phase 1 study, phase 2 study, and then if the property owner wants to do something different with it, or a potential buyer, which is real important, there's a grant there that they can apply for to do a cleanup. And there's several areas like that. I mean, once you see those buildings, well, now we have an out to help get those buildings cleaned up or removed.
Well, and the exciting thing for me, just the other day when we were at the Coal Miners Museum for a meeting, someone walked in and was like, we're looking at retail space down here. And so some of the new businesses with Fast Pace and some of the other businesses that have located in Rocky Top, I mean, we've seen a lot of growth in these last few years.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I always try to get the message out there, that we can't force people to sell their property. We can't force businesses to come into town.
That's not your responsibility.
We want to make it an environment for businesses to come in, changing our zoning to make sure our zoning is up to date, redoing our zoning, updating our land use plan, doing the things the city can do, improving sidewalks downtown. So putting public infrastructure, increasing water and sewer infrastructure so you can have campgrounds, so you can have short-term rentals, working with people to get the houses back up to code, or getting them in contact with somebody that's willing to buy their house to put it. So we want to be that, person that go through to help connect people. But you also have to have people willing to buy property and people willing to sell property.
Right.
And we've seen that in some senses, but there's places especially downtown, that people they use the property as a write-off, and there's nothing we can do with somebody having an empty building. as long as they keep it up to code. But we work hard every day to make the city better. It's come a long ways. I mean, I know, there's a lot of that used to be there in the 80s when the school was there, the hospital, but those things are not there anymore. So we have to look at how do we redevelop the downtown. And you're seeing that all over America. Downtowns are dying because you have interstates. The best and worst thing that ever happened to the city, we've got 2 exits on I-75, but it took people out of downtown. Right. So you got the advantage of having an interstate where 40,000 people pass every day. But location-wise, we're great for outdoor activities. We're 2.5 miles from Windrock, which is great for us, the ATVs, and we're 2.5 miles from North Lake. There's 2 marinas off our exits. So those are the things that we try at State Park, North Dam State Park. So we feel like we can be a tourism hub, and that's one of the reasons we really tried to push the ATVs. We really are pushing the short-term rentals, trying to work with people. It's like, hey, if you're not going to do their property, I got people that would be interested in redeveloping it. And we're seeing that, especially around the splash pad. 2 new houses have been remodeled because of that, which I think is good for our community. And I mentioned the splash pad because, that's one thing that people love. And the other thing I'd like to plug before we leave is our trunk or treats this Friday, tomorrow, or I'll say the 28th, because I'm not sure how this will air, but yes. And that takes a lot of partnerships, but that is at our the multi-purpose field there at the community center. So hopefully people will come out for the trunk or treat.
And he's right when he talks about splash pad. Mayor Lovely, that was his pet project, is what I would call it.
Right.
And it brings so many people from the community there in the summer, and it gives people something to do and the kids something to do. And then Main Street has put a canopy up down there. And so they've got a ministry that works together with that. So it's really changing. It's a slow thing, but it's actually changing the face.
Well, and you cannot downplay the word willingness. I mean, when I work with the city, there's always a willingness to work on projects and a willingness to work with people to get projects done. And you can't downplay that. That's very important, to be able to see that vision, like you were saying, and look ahead and see what can be done, and a willingness to do it. So that is very important. That's what's going to make the difference in Rocky Top.
The one thing about his position and when he was talking about being on that rural committee, that's how you find out about some of these other opportunities through grants. He serves on that. I actually got appointed to a federal committee that's Rural Caucus Committee. And, and I'm thinking, how does not everybody hear about these things?
Right.
Because, it's a blessing to be able to hear about it and then say, hey, did you know that this is coming up? The other day I was on one of those calls, and it was one of the White House calls, and they was talking about giving money to people that live close to a gas well drill or a coal mine, that's got a potential for contaminated property. I mean, who would have ever heard about that?
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I thank you both for being here with me today, and appreciate everything that you all are doing for Rocky Top, and be sure to keep us informed.
Really, what this would, if to sit and talk about all this, it would have to be a series.
Yes.
I think Tim just wants to hang out with us on like a monthly basis.
I think it sounds like a good idea. So thank you both. Appreciate your time.
Well, I appreciate what you all do. Really
Thank
do.
you guys for being here.